but okay. So welcome to our webinar today. Our focus is going to be on raising successful teens, as we've had the last couple of weeks, but talking about getting them ready for their future. And my name is Trevor Fall, and I've been helping. I'll introduce myself briefly. As a quick overview, so I'll talk a little bit about who I am, and then with getting our children ready for their future, then we'll talk a little bit about values and responsibilities that we want them to have. And then I'll talk about career planning and some practical action steps that people can take. So in the first two webinars, I gave a lot of this information. So I'm going to just go through this very quickly. But basically, my career has been helping high school and university students with adjusting to life in Canada and with their academic reading, writing, listening, speaking skills. I've also helped and worked with newcomers for settlement in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And I've taught different English exams since 2007, TOEFL, IELTS, more recently is one called CELPIP in Canada. On the business side, I've helped and brought in products from Indonesia. I've started several small businesses and invested in real estate and renovating houses and renting houses. And I've worked and helped Canadians or newcomers get out of debt. So having a general, I like numbers and having a general overview of the financial side of life. So you may see this picture and see, if you know Matthew, you know that he's much bigger now, but this picture was taken about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was taken when we were in China. So this is at the Great Wall of China, and that's where, when we went and visited the Great Wall that day, then I made sure that I had the Frisbee that had Canada on it so that we could take pictures and show that we were from Canada. A little bit about my son, just because he is just moving from being a teen to being a young, into college and career. He's 18 years old. So over the years, he's done well with being in gymnastics, baseball, and parkour, which is like a sport where you're running over an obstacle course. He was involved with music and arts, so choir, band, and musical theater. He liked playing Minecraft, and he still was able to get high marks in his high school, including 95% in his core subjects in grade 12. Socially, he's been at many camps and involved with many activities, so he's friendly and interactive. And I often tell people that I had a goal of him going to 10 countries by the time that he was 10 years old, but I failed that goal. I was able to have him go or travel through or visit 9 countries, but we missed that by 1 year. But over this last year, he wanted to have a gap year, which we talk about, meaning to travel with a purpose or just do something before he starts university. And so he was able to travel to 5 countries in September to December, and then 3 more countries from January until June. And then he'll be coming home next week. Well, next month, I guess, early July, he'll be back in Winnipeg. Okay, but there's just some pictures. You can see he's in the back here. There's a gentleman from America who's with white hair. And then there's another fellow. This is when he was in Romania, and they were preparing some boxes and supplies to take to the Ukrainian refugees. And then he's in the last 6 months, he's been in a performing arts environment. They had 3 months of learning and practice, and then they traveled to England and to South Korea to put on a play and to perform. And so over the last 6 months, that's been his focus. And so I have knowledge of working with, I'll just go back up here, knowledge of working with teens and university age students and adults, but also with raising my son and seeing him be successful. And so my passion is to help parents with their English, help them with their teens with English, but also with their teens' mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial knowledge. as they move and makes that transition from being a teenager to becoming a young adult. Okay, so today we'll talk a little bit about getting our kids ready for the future. And I think many times as parents, we're so busy, we don't always think about or plan what will my child's life be like in 5 years or 10 years, and what can I do now to help my child be prepared or ready for their adulthood. So I just have a list here, and this is a little bit interactive, and there's a couple of you that have just joined in the last couple of minutes, so welcome. But I want you to give me some ideas when we're thinking about how we want our children to be. So values, what would be values that you would want for your children or your nieces or nephews? So I've started the ideas with honesty, kindness, but what else would you want for your child to hold on to and to follow? Okay, any suggestions? Okay, well, maybe I'll add a couple more. I would want my son or my daughter to be helpful with people around him or her. Anything else that you would suggest for your child or niece or nephew, how they would act or behave?
Just a second.
Yep.
Yeah, I like my kids to be safe, especially with nowadays now with social media and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
I like them to be graduate, uh, be successful. Yeah, everything good.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So honest, helpful. Um, we could say maybe like with successful, often success comes when we are hardworking. So that
Yeah,
could be a value. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Good. Anything else for yourself or from the others joining us? What values you would want for your children? Okay, yep. Someone has shared in the
I,
chat to
I
be
want,
polite. Good. Yeah. Anything else?
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Victor.
I want my children uh to can do everything, be active active be active. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be active, because we don't want them just to sit around and not really do anything. Um, so maybe I could say not lazy.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Okay. Anything else that you would want to add to the list? Okay. And so as we think of our children, we want them to be successful. We want them to be able to have responsibility and make decisions and make good decisions. You know, to be also to be a contributor, meaning that they're giving and helping. Okay, with that. Okay, so let's also look then with responsibility. And I've put in a couple of choices here again, because I think every parent wants their child to be doing their homework and being successful with their academics. But what other areas, as they enter into life as a young adult and move into the workforce, go to university, college, I've added household chores. Are there other areas that you would want them to have skills or to do well in as they're, you know, if you think of us as adults and everything we have to do, what else would you say that you want your children to be responsible in or to learn some skills to do? And maybe while you're thinking of that, we can look or think about, like with household chores, there's different skills that we need to do as we get older. So being able to do laundry, cooking. What else in the household do we need to be able to do?
Clean,
Okay, sorry, can you say that again?
clean,
Clean.
room.
Yep, good. Yep. And that's where I see often, I think, as parents are younger, then they, or sorry, as parents have children who are younger, they may just have them clean with them, you know, clean the table or clean the floor. But as their children get older, then they add some more responsibility. Okay, you need to clean your room, or okay, your room is clean, but we also need to clean the kitchen floor or other parts of the house, etc. Okay, so laundry, cooking, clean, wash the dishes. Okay, what about in other areas of life? What else could we be, what else do we want our children to be responsible in besides academic and household chores?
Garden,
Okay, sorry, garden?
garden,
Yep, okay. Okay, anything else?
Walking with dog.
Okay, yep. So I'm going to make it a little bit broader, and I'll say taking care of pets. So if they have a dog, a cat, even a fish, but being able to be responsible to take care of something, which also teaches them more about responsibility in life. Okay, good. Anything else? Okay.
Yeah, of course, in the winter helps with the snow shovel. In the
Mhm.
summer helps with the
Yeah,
getting you have house.
okay, good.
I know it's I can do it by myself, but it's good to start at least when they have now 14 years old,
Hmm.
let them help you to do that.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. And that's where, so different parents have different styles. For some parents, And that's why I have these in several sections. For some parents, they just say, I just want my child to be academically minded, academically focused. But as our kids get older, I find that a lot of times without household chores or taking care of pets or other areas, then when their academics are done, then they're often defaulting. They're often just going to play computer games or watch TV or just hang out with their friends. And so having some chores in the house to do, and in our house, there was things Matthew had to do regularly. And then there were things that I would pay him that were extra. So he was expected to clean his room. He was expected to help with dishes, or even sometimes help me cook or help Lucy cook, my wife cook. But then if he was shoveling snow, if it was just 5-10 minutes to help me in a section, no problem. But if he went out and it was 20 or 30 minutes because it was a larger area, then I would pay him a little bit of money or increase a bit for his allowance to help with that. Okay. Let me just expand this a little bit beyond these areas, because I think also for our children to be successful in life, money management is definitely an area that I want my son to know about and understand, because it's not just about going and getting a job so you make money. It's also managing the money that you have so that you're able to be successful with the money that you have. Okay. So academics, household things, money management. And then the other areas I want them to be responsible in, and maybe this should be in a different area, but also in relationships. And what I mean by being responsible in relationships is to learn how to communicate, to learn how to deal with conflict. So communicate and conflict resolution. Because if they are not taught and modeled how to interact well with others, or they get a bit pushy or a bit selfish, then as they become in their 20s and 30s, they're going to have difficulty in their future relationships, but also have difficulty in their work environment, which I'm going to talk a little bit about later on today as well. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about values for our children, talked a little bit about being responsible and helping them in these areas. So I'd like to ask you, what are we doing now to help our child or our teen learn these things? Okay. So what are some things that you're doing over the last few days, weeks, months to help your child in these areas? Okay, and maybe I'll ask a few. Yeah, go ahead.
Practice with example.
Okay, good. So practicing with examples.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let me just, okay, so. Yeah, so when we're showing them how to do things, first we let them observe us, and especially as they're younger. And then as they're a bit older, we let them try it. And sometimes they'll break a dish or they'll not clean everything as well as you like it. But we practice, we show them, we correct them a bit, we practice again. Okay, good. What else can we show that how we're helping our kids now in these areas?
Teaching.
Okay, good. Sometimes our teens, I don't know with your teens, but sometimes I know the teens I've been around, sometimes we say they roll their eyes. So like, oh, mom, I know that. Or, oh, dad, it's okay. I do, but as we talk with them, as we teach them, then those are examples, or they see and observe how we're living and what things are valuable for us. Okay, so teaching and talking without a lecture. Okay, anything else that you're doing to help your children now?
Try to like show them you understand them.
And why is that important? I agree with you 100%, but why is that important?
It's very important because if they like you build friendship with them.
Good. Yeah. And sometimes when we're with our kids, you know, sometimes we're like, do this or do it this way, and we can put pressure. I know I put pressure on Matthew when he was younger sometimes, and then his confidence would maybe be average or kind of in the middle. But as I talked with him, built a relationship with him, showed I understood him, then I could see that his confidence became higher, which is an excellent result for us as parents or uncles and aunts to model and show to our kids. Okay. So
yeah, even if they do something wrong,
right.
The first impression, don't say no, like try to explain for them first, like why is no in good way, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that easy?
Like not easy for me or for you.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's why it's not easy, because our first reaction is that's wrong, do it this way. But to talk about, well, here's a better way, a faster way, an easier way, or to just say, let's try this, and, you know, and doing it without anger or with the tone in our voice helps them, again, gain confidence and to grow. Okay, so the first part of this, as we've talked about values and responsibilities, it's just so that we're thinking, okay, in 5-10 years, maybe I'm only talking with my son or daughter once a week or once every couple of weeks. Maybe they've moved far away. I'm not in their life every minute, every day. So this just helps us think about, you know, as they're getting older, how do we slowly release the teaching and talking and things we've done and pass more responsibility to them to start taking control of their lives and making good decisions with that. Okay. Now, I want to jump and move into something that's very different, although these values and responsibilities will determine how successful they are in this other side of life. But the first 20 years of our life, we're learning, growing, and others are taking care of us. Basically, for the next 40 or 50 years of life, that's where we're moving then into careers and work and the relationships. So for us to prepare our children for the future, I want to just talk for probably the next 20 minutes or 15 minutes about 3 or 4 areas of career planning. So I know for many of us, because I know some of you well, I know some of you just by name, but I know for many of us, we want our children to be successful, and we often have the dream, I want my daughter or son to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be an accountant. But not everyone's going to be in those high profile positions or those honored, respected positions. And so I just want to take a few minutes to talk about specifically in Canada. So maybe I should add that in here. But in Canada, what are some of the in-demand jobs that we have today? And so what I'm going to do is I pulled up a couple of websites, and I want to just highlight and switch the screen to talk a little bit about some of these, and the link is there in the slide. But let me stop the screen share here and just switch it over. So this is taken from Global News, which is one of the news sites in Canada. The title of it is these are the most in-demand opportunities in Canada in 2023. And I think you might be a little bit surprised as we go through some of these, but let's take a look. So the nice thing, and why I like this specific article, because I looked at several different articles, but this talks about not just the job with a description, but also the estimated salary. So coders and developers in the IT industry, that's one area that's in demand right now. And you can see the salary is quite good, 70 to 155,000, depending on your position in management. Okay. HR, which stands for human resources. It's helping with a company and hiring the right people for different roles. That's also in a 75,000 to 156,000 range within Canada. Okay. Mechanical engineer, so some of these are kind of more high profile and what we're looking or thinking about, engineers, doctors, lawyers. So in Canada, with the mechanical engineers are looking at 66 to 130,000. But then there's also jobs that our children might be suited for that we don't often think about. And these are, again, in demand. This is what's needed in Canada. So welders, so working with metals in construction, building bridges, even auto mechanic or auto body. Salaries, of course, are not quite as high, but that's still a good salary for a person in Canada, 40 to 74,000. Okay. Bookkeepers and accountants, where they're helping in companies, salaries can make a comfortable living, 60 to 114,000. Okay. Registered nurse, as you may be aware, nurses and doctors are in demand, and nurses are typically making about 68 to 90,000, and different healthcare industries, not just the hospitals, but also in the smaller doctor offices or around helping with seniors. In-demand jobs, warehouse worker. Often we're like, no, I don't want my child to do physical labor, but warehousing now is not just moving boxes or lifting heavy stuff, but it's managing with technology. Amazon has a huge warehouse in Winnipeg, in the Transcona area, and the pay is not always as great, but you have opportunity for promotion and to move ahead and become a manager of people or learn more about the technology in that environment or in that company. Okay. Customer service, 43 to 74,000, helping people as with complaints or with products or whatever that company is involved with. Okay. Even being a delivery driver, and if you're delivering food, it's something you can do a part-time, but even full-time, 42 to 60,000, that's a decent salary. That means you're making about $22, $25 a year if you're making 60,000 in total. So I just wanted to show you some of these ideas or thoughts, because sometimes we think, again, the more common professions, but there's a wide range of opportunities for our children, and the salaries can be quite good depending on what areas or things that you're looking for within these. Okay. The other thing that I think is good to note is in our career or in our minds, we're often thinking, oh, my child should go to university. But in today's situation and world, it's not just university. There's different colleges that offer skills in these in-demand areas. And so this is one that has several locations across Canada, but you can see accounting, graphic design, dental, legal administration, medical office, supply chain management. Many of these are not four-year programs, which are expensive or degrees at university. Most of these are 8 months to a year. And usually the companies guarantee 90 or 95% success rate in finding a job after that. Okay, here's another organized company, college, and it has different, accounting, administration, business. So this is just a list of different programs in different areas that we can be thinking about as we're talking with our children in these areas. Okay, so let me just go back to the PowerPoint. So part of what I want to encourage you today is don't just think about the university, but also the college opportunities, or something that some of you may not have heard of, micro credentials. So this is especially common in IT, but also in program management or in other fields and careers. It's not just about having a 4-year degree, which again is quite expensive, but micro credentials are usually short-term courses. They could be 1 week, they could be 3 months, they could be 6 months. Often you can take them at home. I know there's different ads that pop up in my YouTube for Google credentials. And within a few months, people that have taken these different mini credentials, they can also be working or being involved in companies using that. So our options are much broader than they were when you and I were children in the past. The other thing I just want to remind and talk about is what are some areas that we want to look at. It's not just what we want for our teens or our children, but we also have to identify what is their personality. Are they introverted? Are they extroverted? What types of jobs are suitable for them? What are their skills? I know many students who are not that great with academics. Maybe they have difficulty with their memorizing, or with doing well with English or math or chemistry, but they're very good with fixing things, or they're very good with technology. So for them, social media or graphic design, auto body, plumber, electrician, those are jobs or opportunities that in our culture are valued and are high paying, but maybe for some of us from other countries or cultures, we don't consider those as being the first choice for our children. Okay. I'll also think as well, and I've kind of talked about this, but with our kids, traditional job, or maybe there's jobs in tech, maybe there's entrepreneurial tracks that they can be involved with. And then for us, how are we helping our kids with their process of becoming ready to work? So giving them opportunities to volunteer, or helping them to understand what's a resume, job search, interview process. How do you go about those different steps? They do a little bit of that in schools, and some colleges and universities provide some counseling, career planning. But those are all areas that our kids and teens need to understand. And then I'll just comment on one other thing. Nowadays, there's a terminology we call side hustles. And a side hustle is something you do at home or on the side of your regular job or your regular university college. And today the options are endless. You can be cutting grass, you can be selling t-shirts online, you can have your own product store, you can buy products on Kijiji and sell them on Amazon or Facebook, or there's so many different options in our world. And sometimes we might say to our son or daughter, okay, go out and find a job. There's McDonald's, there's Tim Hortons. And they might come back and say, but Dad, why would I get a job doing that? I can buy something on Kijiji and sell it for an extra $15, or I can, make an app or do video games, or there's lots of different choices for our kids nowadays. Okay. I'm going to talk a bit more about this at the end of today's session, but I have a teen mentoring program that I've brought together some adults that are teachers and mentors. And in that program, over 6 or 8 or 10 months, we work with teenagers. And one of the modules over a 6 or 8 week period is specifically focused in helping them with career planning to get them better prepared for their future work and career. Okay. I've talked a little bit there, but let me ask you a question. Have you heard of the term soft skills? And if you have, what are they? Okay. Has anyone heard of these terms or can guess what they mean?
Our, I think our abilities.
Okay. Our abilities, yeah. So traditionally, and what we talked about in the previous slide about university, college, micro-credentials, often for many years, the focus was let's get the specific skills for a specific job. So accountant, plumbing, engineer, doctor, lawyer, etc. And that's what the universities provided for us. We call those hard skills because those are the specific things you need for that job or a series of jobs. Soft skills are slightly different, but it's helping us in the workplace or in the environment that we're working. So I'm just going to switch back over and take a look at another website. So this is from Harvard Business Review, which is a prestigious magazine in the US. Harvard, it comes out of Harvard University or is associated with them. But in here, there's been a recognition the last 20 years. I can be the best accountant or the best engineer or the best doctor, but if I'm not good in my soft skills, which we'll look at some examples shortly, then I could be fired from my job, even if I'm the best technical person with the best skills. And so in this Harvard Business Review, it talks about knowing the hard skills, with finances or etc. But with soft skills, these are the interactive things that we know and do with people around us. So how are our teams with communication, for example? Because often many parents complain and say, I asked my child a question and they just grunt, yep, and so there's not really discussion. But for them to be successful in the workplace in the future, they need to be able to communicate well with others. Okay, how are they working with others on a team, whether it's within your family or with people around them? Okay, influencing without authority. So what this means is how, if they're not the manager or the boss, can they still explain ideas and encourage their classmates or others to do something in a different way that might be better or more productive? Okay. Problem solving is a soft skill. And, I was talking with a person that was maybe in their early 20s a few days ago, and she was commenting about this because she said at her job, sometimes she's given the basic checklist of what she needs to do, but sometimes there's not much more information. And if her manager's not around, she has to decide, what am I going to do in this situation? This customer's asking for this. It's not on my checklist. So how do I solve that customer's problem in that way or in that manner? Okay. And then leadership. So these ideas and soft skills, I think, are kind of broad, but also more take time to develop. But if I look at this other website, it just talked a little bit about, communicating clearly, working well with others, managing time effectively. So these are also areas that we would say or identify as being soft skills for that. And this has also a list of 15. So I'm not going to read through all of these, but you're going to see some that came up in the Harvard Business Review also coming up here. So time management, problem solving, teamwork, stress management, leadership, persuasion, openness to criticism. This one is interesting, but as we become more mature, we should be at a place where if somebody corrects us, we don't get angry or defensive, but we ask, okay, how can I change that? What can I do, etc. Okay. And conflict management. And if you're looking at these different lists, you're maybe thinking, well, how do I teach those things? Well, this goes back to what we talked about with responsibilities for our children. If our children don't do anything in the house, there's never a time with gardening or pets or chores or other things, then they're not usually learning these. Video games aren't teaching this. If they're sitting and just watching TV or hanging out with their friends, they're not learning these skills. But as they're placed in given responsibility, if they're volunteering, if they're helping out in summer camps or in after-school programs or different clubs at school, it's in those environments that they're learning these soft skills. And so I mentioned this in the past, but every summer when my son was starting maybe age 5, 6, 7, he went to different camps. Some were sports camps, some were like camping out in the forest areas. But every year that he did 3 or 4 or 5 weeks of those camps, his friends were often sitting at home or just hanging out with friends in Winnipeg. And I noticed over 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, his soft skills got better and better because he was now interacting, helping people, giving and taking responsibility and being involved in these different areas. And his other friends that didn't have those opportunities or the parents didn't see them as important, I feel that as they move into the workforce, they're going to be having to learn that when they're 20, 24, 26, and they might learn it by being fired from a job or by not doing well at some of their jobs. So the more chances we have to place our teens and children with other people in different situations, like volunteering camps, clubs at school, sports groups, etc., those areas will help our children be successful in these different parts that I'm mentioning with the soft skills. I'm almost finished with my talking and then we'll have some questions, but another area I think we need to think about and look at, making sure that our children have tech integration, because in the workforce nowadays, they have to be able to use Google Workspace or Suites or Microsoft Office, and many schools are using that. I've seen with children even as early as grade 5 and grade 6 now. They have accounts at school. They have to log in. They have to, when they're making reports, they have to write down in Word or documents. Maybe they use Excel. They're making PowerPoints. So I think that area, they have some advantages. Even they're faster in some of that than we are. But other things like MailChimp, which is helping with, it's a program to help with promote and market businesses and send out surveys. Monday.com is a program to help with time management and managing the order that you do things in. Calendly is helping you also with managing, making appointments, meeting with people, etc. And then these other ones I just threw in here, not because everyone will use them, but I think if our kids have side hustles or want to sell products or make things to put online in social media or others, these are different platforms that allow that. Shopify is used to sell products, whether it's a physical product or a digital product. Teachable is where they can learn about programs and learn different skills, but they can also put their own course on there to teach. Kajabi is similar. So looking at who they are and which areas that they're good at, looking and helping them with their soft skills, and then helping them with tech integration in the workplace, I think those are all things that we can be aware of. How do we help our kids get ready for their future? So as we close off and move towards a question and answer time, I encourage you during this week, here's our action steps. Think about values and responsibilities you want your child or teen to have or to grow in. And then think about if you don't have those skills, you know, maybe you want them to be good with cooking, but you're not so good with cooking. Think about who in your circle around you can help with that. Maybe there's a family friend who's an excellent cook or chef. Maybe there's an uncle or aunt, a grandmother, you know, etc. So think about the responsibilities you want your children to have, and then think about how you or others around you can teach those responsibilities and values. I encourage you this week, talk with your teen or your niece or nephew and just share with them these different options. A common question my son was often asked was, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or what are you going to study in university? And to be honest, my son hated those questions because he didn't know. He wasn't sure what he was interested in, even up until grade 10 or 11. So I think better questions or more common questions we can ask is, what are you interested in? Or, you know, you've probably heard people talking about university, but do you know that there's colleges? Do you know that there's micro-credentials? And just help your child understand these different areas. And then action step number 3, and I have here the Teen Mentor Program that I've talked about in the last few webinars and today. It includes all of these different parts. There's social interaction with other teens. There's a mentor that meets with them one-on-one every week. There's conversations and talking about social media and about themselves in the world, about career planning. All of these different parts that I've talked of in the part 1, part 2, and now today in part 3 are featured in this Teen Mentor Program that can help your teen get ready for their university and college and career as they move and become adults. Okay. Any questions or comments that you have from what we've talked about today?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So about Matthew.
Correct. Yeah.
What do you think something you would do it if still he's like in 13 or 14 years old?
So when he was 13 or 14, what would I be doing at that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's relevant because I know that you have several kids that are in that age range. So 13 or 14, basically you're looking at grade 7, grade 8. And so when he was 8, I'll just actually back up to a little bit younger. When he was ages 3 or 4 until 8 or 9, my goal for him, and I was deliberate about this, I wanted him to try different things in the different areas. So in music, I wanted him to think about a musical instrument and then maybe be singing or playing something. For sports, I wanted him to try 2 or 3 different sports. So he was in gymnastics, he was in baseball, soccer, and then I taught him different games in academics, etc. So in the early years, my goal and my responsibility, I felt, was let's expose him to different areas that at least he knows a little bit about many or some different things. Then as he moved into junior high, then it was a little bit more focused of, okay, which of these things do you want to pursue? Or even sometimes I think you need to do this more. You're interested in music, then you need to take this program or course to help your musical ability or music sense. So there was a little bit of his choices and what I still thought might be helpful or useful. But also when children are grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, their brains are still developing. And that's where there's a lot of, I won't say laziness, but forgetting things, not wanting to do things, a little bit of rebellion and fighting against what we want them to do. especially between a mother and daughter, or sometimes with a son and a father, because the testosterone, the estrogen, the other hormones that are going through the bodies at that time, and the brain development, it's just a time where emotions are going up and down. So I know this is lots of different ideas, but during those years, I think what you're doing and what you've responded of talking with your children and interacting with them, that having the communication lines and spending time with them helped Matthew and I not to have many conflicts. So I made sure that I wasn't as busy as I was when he was younger, so taking the time, and I made sure that I was checking in with him. So usually at dinner time, we ate together in the evening, and then during the week and on the weekend, I would have short conversations with him. So the relationship was there, and then the support for what activities or things he wanted to do, pick him up from school, go to a baseball game, or he's staying later because there's an after school event with musical theater or drama or arts. So just supporting him in those areas. Okay. And then I'll just add, then the other part, which I didn't do well, well, this is why I'm talking with parents now and have this teen mentor program, because I didn't really think, okay, in 5 years, what would I like him to be doing, or in 10 years? So I just kind of went, as most of us do. We're very busy day by day. I'm just reacting to what's there. So I think the other part when they're 13, 14 is start having those conversations. Again, rather than saying, what do you want to study in university? More of, what are you interested in? Or, oh, my cousin John is fixing cars. Does that interest you? Or, my cousin Sarah is, she's involved with sewing or handicrafts, or whatever it is. So exposing them to those different options as career choices. Okay. Is that helpful, Mohammed?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is what I want to know.
Yeah. Okay, good.
No. Yeah. And to add that as well, like I agree every single point you mentioned. And build friendship with the kids in that age is very, very, very important.
Yeah. And it's funny because often our daughters or sons at that age, they start to pull away because they're becoming independent. So they don't want to be hugged like they were when they were younger, or, like there's certain things they're developing their boundaries and what they like or don't like. They don't want to be embarrassed in front of their kids. It's like, Dad, get away. I'm going to go talk to my friend now. And sometimes parents take that personal. Oh, my daughter doesn't want to be with me anymore. But 2 years ago, she was so loving and interactive and, talking a lot. Now she doesn't talk at all. Or my son, he just grunts. How was football practice? Well, how was your day? And so, but instead of taking it personally, just realize it's a transition. There's often a period of 6 months, maybe a year, even 2 years, where there's problems and issues between the parent and the teen. But if you're regularly checking in, showing love, showing kindness, showing respect, and still reminding them that you love and care for them, as they move through that period, they will come back and be more grateful and have a closer relationship. And that's where I've talked with some teens some parents, their teens are in maybe 14, 15, 16. And Matthew actually had a similar incident where they become very depressed or they become very frustrated with everything around them. And it might last for 1 month, it might last for 6 months or a year. And what we did when that happened to Matthew, we went for professional help. We met with a psychologist. We talked with a few different counselors. My wife and I went to counseling, and then also our son went to counseling, Matthew. But I think often, and I think I was kind of raised, but I think in our society, oh, you don't want people to know your problems. Well, I don't want to just renounce on social media my problems, But I do feel that we need professionals who specialize in helping teens every day or every week, every month. We need to have and introduce them into our children's lives to help give that extra support that we can't provide. Many times parents say, why does my teen listens to you? Like I was talking with a teenager about money and real estate and business and stock markets and stuff. And the mother came to me after and she's like, I talked to him about that stuff last year. I even gave him money. I said, go invest in the stock market, try it. And he didn't do anything. But now you're saying the same things and he's interested. So, have those uncles, aunts, mentors, coaches, and professionals that you can contact. Sorry, I'm talking a lot, but other questions that you might have?
No, that's really helpful, Trevor.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed.
Yeah, and the points you mentioned about when you meet them when they are with the friends and they try to be like far away from you.
Yeah.
It was happened with me before.
Okay.
But now I try to, like, now, as you know, they have soccer activity, and so now they invite friends to be with us when I take them to the soccer.
Yeah.
So I know how
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I did with Matthew's friends. So I would give him space to be with his friends, but I would also give them rides, or I would go when I picked Matthew up after school. I would stand around for a few minutes and deliberately talk with some of his friends. How was your school today? What did you think? So in junior high and high school, his core group of friends, and sometimes he'd be playing Minecraft or even studying online during COVID. And I'd often pop into the room, hi friends, how's everything going? And like they knew me. And I think that's important, that over time, they even would come to me sometimes for advice because I was there. And that's what you and us we can be doing, is be there and help as much as we can. And then they will trust and come back and continue to be with us.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Good. Any other questions that someone else might have? Okay. So a couple of things I want to say as we end off. You may have noticed over each week that I've been in a different place. So the first week I had a couple of books behind me about teens and parenting. Last week I was actually over a little bit, but I had where there's a keyboard and then board games and books and stuff. Because we talked about social media, and in our household, my son had social media, but we also played games and did different activities. But then today and you can see the pictures behind me, and I did that deliberately because you can see a nice sunny beach scene, but then on this side, you can see where it's a little bit dark gray, there's mountains, and almost looks a little bit like Mount Fuji or in those environments. But I chose and am in front of those two pictures because I think when our teens are going through their life and activities, it's similar. There's some days where it's like a beach and everything is good and everything is great with them. And then there's other days where it's a little bit dark and gray and difficult for their journey or where they're walking or what they're doing. And also, as we think about their future, we want our teens to have this future. We want them to be on a beach and, relaxed. But the reality is there has to be times of not so good times or times of frustration or challenges for them to build and grow in order to be able to enjoy and interact with those times that are also sunny and warm and everything is clear from that. So as we end off, I have my email here, CanadianEnglishMentor@gmail.com. If you'd like a replay of this webinar and more tips about raising successful teens, it's kind of hard to see this. Let me but I will copy and put these both of these into the chat, as well as where you first saw this webinar through the whether you saw it on social media through Facebook or in other areas that I was advertising or spreading information. But as we end off, I just want to encourage you, and I've talked about it several times, but you can be in touch by email. But we have a saying, or I've heard a saying often, that it takes a village to raise a child. And I want to be part of your teen's journey towards success. So we have a program, as I've mentioned several times today, that it's about 6 to 12 months, depending on how fast, because we'll have classes starting every month, and then teens will be joining and interacting with others, as I mentioned, as well as one-on-one with a mentor. But as we advertise, and I would encourage you to consider having your teens or nieces and nephews or others you may know about, that this gives me a platform to use my expertise, use the strategies and skills that I use with my own son, to then pass that on to teens and help them get ready for their careers and their transition to becoming young adults, as well as to be a resource for parents and others to ask questions and help through the journey, so that we have a whole village around our teens and our kids, so that we can help them be successful in their life. So if you're interested in that, you can send me an email, which I've put into the chat, or you can fill out the form in the form that's also in the chat. But thank you guys for joining and being with us today. I appreciate the interaction, the questions. And if you do have other questions, I can stay on for a few more minutes, or I can also, answer and respond through email. So thanks for your time today. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the hot but not too hot day that we have here in Winnipeg.
Thank you so much, Trevor.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Victor.
Yeah.
Yeah.